Modern pet foods have come a long way since the 1800s. Now you walk into a pet store or even a grocery store, and the choices can be overwhelming. Each one claims to provide everything your pet needs to be healthy. So what are the differences? Let's cover the most common types of pet food available today, in rough order of how heavily they're processed. First, and most heavily processed, is the food most folks think of when they picture pet food. Kibble. When we say kibble, we're talking about those little brown crunchy cookies. Kibble is typically an extruded food, which means the ingredients are combined into a slurry-like dough and then forced through a very hot tube along with hot air. It cooks the dough very quickly, and a blade at the end cuts a consistent size and shape. Once the kibble's been extruded, fats, flavor enhancers, and synthetic vitamins and minerals are sprayed onto the food to replace those lost by the extreme heat. Some kibbles are baked, which is slightly gentler, but creates a very similar food. The advantages are that you can use a wide variety of ingredients, since many of the nutrients are broken down to basic forms during that cooking process. Most dry foods are mainly plant material, even if they appear to have meat high up in the ingredient list. Extruding also produces a very dry product that can sit in warehouses and on store shelves for years, and it's cheaper to ship thanks to its low water weight. Just a few of the disadvantages of kibble are compounds created by the high heat that may harm long-term health, and the loss of naturally occurring vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, enzymes, probiotics, and more. Many of the ingredients are pre-cooked before the extrusion process as well, sometimes up to 5 times. This is the farthest thing from food in cellular form. The low moisture content also means that your pet's body needs to rehydrate it before they can digest it, so that water is actually pulled from them. Open bags of kibble are also prone to storage mite infestation, microscopic mites that are naturally present everywhere. When they reproduce in an open bag of food, their poop increases the symptoms of skin allergies or irritation, like redness or itchiness. Canned foods are usually made by mixing the ingredients, sealing them in the cans, and then cooking them right in the can. This means you're keeping the food rich in moisture, which can improve digestion, and pets typically like it more. However, the very high temperature that canned foods are cooked at can form potentially harmful compounds like carcinogens. It can also destroy or denature nutrients, which means they have to add supplements and vitamin packs to replace the lost nutrients. You're also losing phytonutrients, enzymes, probiotics, and more during the cooking process. Dehydrated foods are typically less processed than the other foods we've talked about so far. Usually the ingredients are dehydrated under low heat and then blended together along with supplements to replace the nutrients lost during the low cooking. Once you bring them home, you rehydrate them with water and then serve them to your pet. Though you are losing the fragile nutrients and properties of the ingredients, you do keep more of the natural vitamins and minerals. Many dehydrated foods for pets are higher in starchy vegetables, but they can be a great option for traveling. Lightly cooked foods are often heated in a sous vide cooker, which means they're cooked in a sealed bag placed in a hot water bath. This is a slow form of cooking that can retain many of the nutrients, though again, you do lose the more fragile ones. They're usually in the freezer at your favorite pet store, though they may have some that are refrigerated. Those may contain several preservatives to extend the refrigeration shelf life. Lightly cooked foods can be an awesome option for dogs and cats, as long as they're produced with low heat and appropriate ingredients, and they don't contain too many preservatives. Look for the ones in the freezer, not in the fridge. I prefer food without any added preservatives for my own pets, which brings us to fresh foods. Fresh, raw foods are created by grinding fresh ingredients that have been stored at cold temperatures, blending them together in the correct ratios, and then freezing them into patties or nuggets. That's it. Most companies will also have some safety steps to make sure there's no harmful bacteria in the finished product. But we'll cover all that in a few videos when you get to see how we craft our foods from start to finish. Fresh foods contain the highest level of naturally occurring vitamins, minerals, amino acids, enzymes, probiotics, omega fatty acids, and more. In many cases, no synthetic vitamins, minerals, or other food additives need to be added, since everything's present in its natural form. That makes it easier for the body to use as well. They need to be stored in the freezer, and they can be refrigerated for usually a few days at most. It's gotten very convenient to feed fresh foods. We'll get to that later as well. Freeze-dried foods are usually raw foods that have had most of the water removed. Now, freeze-drying is a gentle process that results in a very low moisture, shelf-stable version of raw food. Most of the nutrients remain intact and in the food. This is considered the best way to preserve the power of fresh, raw foods aside from freezing. Our freeze-dried food is exactly the same as our frozen. We just separate the finished batch of frozen and roll some of it into the freeze dryers. Now, since freeze-dried foods are so low in water, it's incredibly important to rehydrate them before you give them to your pet. Otherwise, it will rehydrate in their body, taking away water that should be used elsewhere. Freeze-dried foods and treats are amazing for treating, traveling, introducing pets to fresh raw foods, you name it. They do tend to be more expensive than frozen fresh foods though, so as a complete diet, I stick with the frozen version. And there you have it, an overview of the most common pet food types available today. Each of these has more advantages and disadvantages that we just don't have time to cover. But remember that for pets, it's the same as humans. The less heavily processed food you can feed, the better.